Hello chess friends and welcome to Jozarov's chess channel and welcome to the Computer Chess Championship Season 13 Superfinals. So as expected we have the clash Leela C Zero versus Stockfish battling for the throne of this very nice Computer Chess Championship, and the funny thing is that we have also this TCEC Season 17 finals going on in which again Leela C Zero and Stockfish are playing for the throne. So we have now really some great games going on. At least we can watch something during this goddamn virus situation. So I'm watching really many games. This was really a cool game that I wanted to show you today from this CCC Super Final. It was a game with the white pieces played by Stockfish against Leela C Zero in the so-called Calabrese counter-gambit. And it's really an irregular opening, and you see how bad this opening is, how great Stockfish will attack against this very irregular opening. And my suggestion is that you shouldn't even try to play this opening because it's really bad, and in this game Stockfish will exploit all of these weaknesses in these positions that can happen of this in this opening. And you see we'll have also some great tactical calculations here by Stockfish. And basically Stockfish loves these types of positions in which he has this maybe slightly advantages and then plays this brutal attacks, which we love of course, and that's why I decided to show you such a game. So let's check out the game. In the game let's see this possible Calabrese counter-gambit: e4, e5, bishop to c4, the so-called bishop's opening, and now comes this very irregular move f5. It seems like a reversed king's gambit setup, and the mistake, it's not a mistake, but it's maybe not the best way here to proceed, is if you take e takes f5. Then black can play knight to f6 because the main threat of white is this move, annoying check here on h5. And here knight to c3 is a possible continuation by white, and black could make here a mistake with the move d5 because you can take the pawn. That's the main problem of blacks here. After knight takes d5, now queen to h5. As I said, this is the main tactical threat here. g6 doesn't work, as we can play here f takes g6 with some discovered attacks followed with g7 and attacking the rook. We would promote simply a new queen. So here king to e7 would be the continuation, but now d4 is a very tricky move as we're threatening some bishop to g5 ideas. So black would be forced to play something like queen to d6. After bishop to g5 we would have knight to f6, and now simply queenside castling with the idea to finally open the d file or the e file, as the queen and the king are on this very endangered files. Now when these rooks come into the game, maybe knight to f3, rook to e1, this game would be simply lost for black. So maybe black could save the situation with the move e4 to close the position in the center somehow, but f3 I think again will open the e file somehow, and I think black is simply lost. So you see after this move e takes f5 and knight to f6, the best way after knight to c3 I think for black is to proceed here with this natural move bishop to e7 and then maybe try some d5 pawn breakthroughs. But still it's a bad opening because after the move f5 you don't have to take the pawn. That's the main problem of blacks here. Here Stockfish played the natural move d4, cracking the position immediately in the center, which is the best way to proceed against this irregular opening. And in the game we have e takes d4 and now knight to h3. The idea behind this move is to play knight to g5 and now knight to f7 with the fork on the queen and the rook. So the problem is that black cannot prevent this idea with some knight to h6 move because of course you're covering this f7 square, but simply bishop takes h6 is maybe the main positional threat here, and now queen to h5 would immediately win the game. So the only way that you can prevent some knight to f7 moves is to move knight to c6, as the knight can come here on e5 and then cover here this f7 square. So that was played here in the game by Leela C Zero, and now knight to g5 anyway, and now knight to e5, covering finally this very weak square. This leaves now Stockfish the opportunity to take the pawn with queen takes d4, and now the queen comes very actively into the game, and here queen to f6. The main idea behind this move, queen to f6, is not only that we're defending here this f7 square. The main tactical idea for black here is to play the move h6, and then if the knight moves somewhere, maybe knight to h3, then we would have knight to f3, discoverably attacking the queen and creating also the check, so white would lose the queen here. So this is the main tactical threat that black here has here, but so far this move is not a possibility. Here bishop takes g8 was played by Stockfish, rook takes g8, and from this point on we have now a game in which till this particular moment this opening was set up by this CCC. So from this point on the engines are using their own moves now. This was now the forced sequence that they supposed to play here in this game. After rook to g8, now Stockfish played the move knight to c3. This is a very annoying move, as we are threatening knight to d5 and also attacking here the c7 weakness. The only way you can prevent this idea is to move c6, which was played in the game by Leela C Zero. But if you try, for instance, h6 in order to kick away the knight, then you get f4. You see, after something like, I don't know, h takes g5, we can simply take f takes e4, and the queen has to move again. Again, we have a great move, knight to d5. We would simply take out the pawn. We would have two connected pawns. So also d6 doesn't work, as knight to d5 we could play immediately, and here after queen to d8 we could play now finally knight takes h7, as this threat knight to f3 is not a possibility anymore. So this would be, I think, a favorable continuation again for white. So in the game after queen to d4, as said, queen to f6, bishop takes g8, rook takes g8, and now knight to c3, c6. So preventing this knight to d5, very annoying move, which black has to prevent. And now we have e takes f5. The idea behind this move is now finally to castle and also placing our rook maybe on the e file, where the king is, of course. The main problem about this Calabrese counter gambit is, of course, this king in the center, which is a little bit stuck, and this bishop is blocked out. So we need many moves. We need some moves to play, maybe b6, d6, d5, in order to develop the light square bishop somewhere and castling queenside. Still, castling queenside is not a possibility, as we're attacking here this a7, so the king wouldn't protect this a7 pawn. So I'm not sure where to go with the king anymore, because you see how bad this opening is. In the game here bishop to e7 was played. Let's see now again this possible h6 move. As said, for instance, knight to h7 doesn't work, as you get this knight to f3 idea and you lose the queen. So here the best way, after potential h6 move, I've also analyzed this tactical line, is to play knight to e4, kicking away the queen after something like queen to f5. Here castling is the best way, simply sacrificing the knight, and after h takes g5, now rook to e8. As I said, we want to attack the king as fast as we can, because the king is stuck in the center. And let's say a possible d5 move, which seems like a natural move, then we will have simply knight to g3, attacking the queen, and now this knight will be taken, and then after that we can also maybe take this pawn, and black is lost again. So you see, this h6 idea doesn't work immediately, maybe in a later stage of the game. In the game now bishop to e7 was played, and now again this very annoying move, knight to e4, attacking the queen, and now queen takes f5. Castling, played by Leela C Zero, and now knight to f7, trying to trade off the queens. And here very tricky move played by Stockfish, rook to e1. You see how dangerous it is when you place the rook on the same file like the king, because if you take knight takes g5, then you get this very tricky tactic here, knight to d6, with a fork on the king and the queen you cannot take because of this pin by the rook on the bishop. So that's why here after rook to e1, d5 was played by Stockfish, trying to get this knight somehow disconnected, because they're playing a very important role in Stockfish attack. Knight to g3, attacking the queen. You still cannot take this knight. This knight is not lost. You can take it maybe with the queen, but losing two minor pieces in this stage of the game is simply suicide, I think. So that's why queen to f6 was played by Leela C Zero, trying to defend this e7 bishop. But now very important move, queen to h4, and now finally this move h6. Here knight to h5, taking the knight on g5 is not a possibility. You attack the queen, but knight takes f6 comes with a check, so that's the main problem. Here in the game, queen to f5 was played, and now queen to b4, attacking this bishop on e7. Here, queen to d7 had to be played in order to defend the bishop, and now finally knight to f3. So it was a little bit a tactical storm sort of played by Stockfish. Now the position seems like to be calm, but still there are too many tactical possibilities here for white, as the king is still stuck in the center. And look at this bishop. This bishop is not participating in the game, and when the bishop is not participating in the game, then the rook is also not participating in the game. So there are two bad pieces in black's position. Here in the game, king to d8 was played by Leela C Zero, trying to get out of this e-file mess, but now calm queen to b3 idea with the preparation to play the move c4. Then we want to maybe open the d-file, because we're chasing a little bit the king with our rook. In the game, bishop to d6 was played, and here Stockfish plays, I think, a great positional move, a great positional trades of pieces. Bishop to f4, as this is the only good minor piece of blacks on the board. Our bishop had some fun, of course, had some great tactical possibilities, but now it's time to trade off our bad piece for a good piece of blacks. Bishop to f4, very important move to trade off the bishops. Now after queen to c7, bishop takes d6 was played, knight takes d6, and now knight to e5, cementing our knight on this very active square. Both of these knights are very active, although this knight is still on the edge of the board, but still we can really fastly improve the position of the knight with some maybe knight to g3 ideas, maybe knight to e4 ideas with some preparations, rook to d1, then maybe knight to e4 would be a possibility, because we would have some tactical threats again on the d-file. Here in the game, rook to e8 was played, and now queen to a3. The threat is maybe here to take queen to d6, then knight to c7 with a fork on the king and the queen, take out the queen, and then maybe take out the rook. So this is the threat. That's why knight to f5 was played by Leela C Zero, and now rook from a to d1. This was really a tricky tactic that Stockfish has prepared here, because it seems now that you can take this knight on e5, but that's not the truth, because we have simply queen to f8. That's the main problem in black's position. You cannot cover with the rook. You have only one square. It's the square d7. But now queen to f7 again. You would have to cover with the knight. Covering with the rook is not a possibility, as you lose because you lose the knight. So that's why knight to e7 would be a must move here. But now queen to g7, creating a double attack against this rook, but also against this knight on e7. So black would be forced to trade off the rooks here. But now after rook to e1, the game is basically lost. As I said before, here these two pieces are not participating in the game. Basically, it's white that has an extra piece. We have an extra rook, because these are like pawns here on the 8th rank, this bishop and the rook. So here queen to d8 would be a forced line that Leela C Zero would have to play. But now knight to f6, very important move, and after something like king to d6, there is now really a cool tactical sequence. We have the possibility to play queen to g3, and after queen to c5, the coolest way, I think, to crush black's position is the move rook takes e7. After queen takes e7, now queen to a3, and you lose the queen. So that's really great tactics that Stockfish has prepared here. So that's why after the move rook from a to d1, a5 was played, not this rook takes e5 idea. You see here probably Leela C Zero is trying to get another defender somehow, maybe rook to a6, trying to defend somehow, connect the rooks in a different way, but it's really too slow, because Stockfish played really some great accurate moves. Now g4, kicking away the knight. Here knight to h4 was played, and now we have c4, trying to finally crack the position on the d-file. If you again try this rook to e5 idea immediately, then again queen to f8, it's even worse. We can even take out then after that the knight. It's same tactical sequence. So here in this game, knight to h4 was played, and now c4, as I said, trying to open finally the d file. This king is really endangered here. I don't like this king's position at all. In the game, bishop to e6 was played, trying maybe to escape with the king on c8, b8. But again, Stockfish is not allowing Leela C Zero to breathe in this position. Played simply queen to g3, attacking the knight, and now after g5, protecting the knight, we have finally c takes d5. After c takes d5, we have rook to c1, queen to b8 was played, and now very cool move, knight to g7, the fork on the bishop and the rook, so the rook has to defend this with rook to e7, and now rook to c6. Of course, if you take, that's the main problem, then again you get the fork. This tactical idea, this discovered attack by the knight, is the main tactical threat now for white here. So in the game, bishop to d7 was played. I've also analyzed this possible continuation. If you try, for instance, to take, then we can take rook to e6. If you try maybe to include this rook into defense, then you get knight to c6. That's the main problem. That's, as I said, our main discovered attack possibility here. So including this rook is not an option. Maybe you could try some rook to e7 ideas, but again, there are too many tactical threats. Rook takes e7 here, after king takes e7. Again, this annoying move, knight to c6. So you see, there are not many good moves that black can play here. This is really a tactical storm that Stockfish has prepared here. Basically, black is lost. In the game, bishop to d7 was played, and now rook to f6. Again, let's see this possible continuation. If you take this knight, rook takes g7, then king to rook to f8 with an attack on the king. If you try to cover with the bishop, then again this very annoying move, knight to c6. After b takes c6, rook takes e8. And again, it would be game over. So in this position, you would be forced here to play something like king to c7, but now knight to c4 leads into a forced checkmate sequence. You have this discovered attack by the queen, so you're forced to play something like king to c6, but now rook to c3, you have only one square, king to b5, knight to a3, king to b4, queen to b3, after king to c5, now queen to b6, it's checkmate. So you see, taking this knight is not an option. So this knight, although is hanging there, Leela C Zero cannot take this knight. In the game, queen to c7 was played, and now comes this annoying check, rook to f8, bishop to e8 was played, knight takes e8, we have rook takes e8, and now rook takes e8, king takes e8, and now again, but again this very annoying discovered check with discovery also attacking the queen. If you try to defend the queen, that's not an option, because then again you get checkmated with rook to e7. After king to c6, we can simply take, rook takes c7, king to g5, and now queen to b3 attacking the king, king to a6, and now queen to b7, and again it's game over. So that's why here, after the move knight to c6, king to f8 was played, but again queen takes c7, not a problem, and here Stockfish managed to checkmate here Leela C Zero in a couple of moves, and it was game over. So great attack by Stockfish. I really liked how Stockfish included all of the pieces, really great attacking skills. Although, as I said, Leela C Zero played this irregular opening, but still I think it was a great tactical game, also an instructive one, how to attack, how to find the best next moves, how to find the best activity of pieces, and Stockfish, of course, the best attacking engine, finds these moves and really crushed here Leela C Zero in this, well, bad opening in this Calabrese counter-gambit. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this game. We'll follow now the CCC superfinal and also this TCEC superfinal. We'll have some great tactical battles, I'm sure, and meanwhile you can watch my other commented chess games played by computers, which I've analyzed so far. Here's the link, and you can also watch my best chess games of all time if you want to see humans battling in their own best chess games. And you can also watch my commented chess games, in which I show you some games from some current tournaments that were played or recently played. And you can also subscribe to my channel if you like this content. Thank you for watching, guys, and chess is the best, of course.